Salute. The streets are buzzing. Knicks win, and they claim opening night. Bragging rights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome in to the post-game live. Smash that like button. Knicks family, we here for another season ahead. Can't wait to break it down as the New York Knicks, man, handle their business. And they escaped with a 119-111 victory. Man, controlled most of the game. But Cleveland, as you know, are a good team. And they're going to keep coming, fam. Let's break it all down. Let's get straight into it and give out these grades. And we're going to give out a game ball or two. Ladies and gentlemen, highlights abound as we break it all down. OG Anunoby, man, sealed it. Wrapped it up with that fast break steal and the reverse throw down. So nice. We're going to show it twice. Shout out to buzzer beater, Chris Gotti, Chance in the building as well. Already got the fans giving out their players of the game. But let's go, guys. 1 of 82, off to the right start. Obviously, a big game coming up against Boston. 2 heavy hitters, to start the season. And it's just great to get off on the right foot, man. We have a poll in tonight's chat, man. What was the most impressive thing, man? Option number 1, we played 11 guys in the first half, right? No garbage time tonight. So 11 guys total, right? Also, we had Brunson and we had Deuce McBride minutes as well together. Those guys were playing well together, right? Was that the most impressive thing that you saw, man? The Knicks were up 15 at the half, dominating the first half. Let us know if you're feeling that. Assists and steals. We're going to break it all down with the numbers, man. That was the last option, fam. So what's the most impressive thing, man? 11 guys in the first half. Mike Brown pushing the right buttons so far. Up 15 at halftime. The Deuce and Brunson minutes together. Or was it getting those assists and steals, right? The Knicks are more aggressive defensively, we've seen it all throughout preseason, right? His OG, man, he was an absolute demon in transition. So we caveat by saying Cleveland, right? No Larry Nance. Sorry, they did have Larry Nance. They had no Max Strauss, no DeAndre Hunter, and no Darius Garland as well. But they gave us their best punch, fam. And defensively, I thought there was some really bright signs. Huck already got the start in the absence of Mitchie. No Josh Hart tonight, so we'll talk about that after we've broken down the game and what next for those guys. But in those absence, we had Trey Jemison step up. Huck already stepped up. Kolek got some opportunities as well. As Jalen Brunson, man, pulled up in this one. He took over in the fourth, right? The offense did stagnate a little bit in the fourth, as we're going to talk about. Fourth quarter, that was the biggest thing that I was looking forward to see, how are the Knicks going to close out games. But the ball movement was really good for the most part, the first 3 quarters. Chris, shout out. Buzzer beater says, we mean business. 100%. That's our hashtag for the season, guys. About to pull up the game balls in a minute, but we relive the biggest highlights. Look, Clarkson had his shine with this transition play, and a lot of the Knicks' offense was fueled by their defense, right? Deuce McBride, man, what a performance from Deuce. I see a lot of love for Deuce and OG in the chat, and without further ado, it's a win, and we salute to the game ball, fam, ladies and gentlemen, man. What a start to the season, right? I was going to give it to Deuce. OG put the cherry on top. So I'm going to give it to both, fam. 2 game balls in this one. So with that said, let me bring up a second game ball. Yuri Ark in the building. What's up, Grays? Michael Drake. Great to see Knicks family come through on opening night, man. Represent like we do. The best fan base in the biz. And ain't no one do it like us. So we've got 2 game balls, man, on opening night to give out. And that's a sign of things to come. Shout out to Deuce McBride, OG Anunoby, right? We had OG Anunoby, 9 of 17 from the field, 4 of 9 from downtown, picking up where he left off, ladies and gentlemen. He got a +10 with his 24 points. And to go with that, ladies and gentlemen, 3 steals, a block, 2 dimes, a whopping 14 rebounds, 4 turnovers, but a lot of ball movement, a lot of fast-paced offense, and OG is going to eat. He is going to feast this season, and I cannot wait. We are going to be here for the ride. But next up, Deuce McBride, 4 of 7 from the field. He also finished 4 of 6 from downtown, was hitting major shots when we needed it the most, fam. But take it away, guys. Chance says 11 guys played, one despite JB and Cat not having great games. Kolek looked good, limited time, good sign. Shout out to Chance. Tony, salute from Denver. Ernest Cameron says Deuce is the player of the game with his defense on Mitchell alone. So we've got to give Mitchell a huge shout out because obviously, man, he made this a game, but we had our defensive stoppers, like Ernest said, came to play. Deuce McBride, man, a quintessential two-way player in this league, right? No doubt about it. And yeah, as Chance said, quite a night offensively from Cat and Brunson, you know, by their standards, but that's not to say that they didn't help us pull this dub out, man. I love their aggression, right? As Cat was jab stepping out from the perimeter, man. Name me a big that can move his feet on offense like him, fam. Look, both feet behind the perimeter, couple of steps and says, get out of my way, fam. That could have been an and one. Once again, I thought Cat's getting a tricky whistle. Hopefully he gets some calls this season. And he said, Larry Nance, get out of my way. Evan Mobley, get in the weight room. Michael Drake says, great ball movement. 100%, 110%. CC says, Cat was solid. Buzzer beater with the comment, 11 players in the first half was the biggest surprise, fam. Yeah, no Mo Diawara. Great to see Trey Jemison, Kolek get an opportunity, like Buzzer says. You know, you guys can see in the box score, man, Deuce was +17, OG +10. Unbelievable. We got 43s up, shot 35%, which isn't great, but given the volume, man, it's pretty good. If you're going to get up that many threes and you can shoot 35%, we are going to beat most teams. I'm looking at the 22 assists. I'm loving that. I'm loving the steals as well. 8 steals. So let's bring up the stats of the game. And we look at the wire to wire, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks basically led most of the game, all but the first part of the first quarter. End of the third, start of the fourth, the Knicks were up against it. Who was to step up? It was Deuce McBride in that moment. Timely threes. And also forcing a lot of turnovers, you know. They looked a little bit shaky on the ball, did Cleveland. Lonzo Ball's out there, but obviously no Darius, no DeAndre Hunter as well. So the Cavs will get better, but we strike first, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire strikes back. Y'all remember last season, we couldn't get a single dub against Cleveland, but this year is a whole brand new day. It's a new dawn, and the New York Knicks are on the board. They strike first. Yuri Ark says, hey, Tibbs, we got a bench. Man, y'all are on fire tonight, like opening night. So, yeah, basically the story is, you know, I got to agree with Yuri here. I do think the depth stepping up. With Brunson and Cat not having the best games, we pull up the grades. Ladies and gentlemen, we've given out 2 game balls. Give out the grades with me. I'm going to give 3 standouts, right? 2 game balls go to Deuce and OG, But I did feel like Mikal Bridges, man, he is the oil that keeps the engine running. And not only did he handle the rock a lot, getting it up the court, helping out Brunson, but he was also scoring in the mid-range. He was also defending well. So 3 get the standouts. Schlick performance from Mikal Bridges, right? Tyler Kolek, speaking about depth, Tyler Kolek stepped up, man. He looked like a vet out there. He did not look, like the occasion was too big. He was actually getting into the paint. Was a little passive sometimes. I thought Tyler actually could have finished a couple of times at the basket. But like many say, he keeps his dribble alive. He's looking for his teammates. And I did think Tyler Kolek had a very solid game, right? The 2 bigs, I got to give them a shout out. We'll go through them individually, but I felt like they were playing, they were rebounding well. So the Knicks controlled the glass in this one. And also they were setting great screens. As we see here, Ariel Hukporty, man. Shout out to Ariel for his first start on the season. I'm not sure if Ariel got a start last season, fam. Obviously, he got some, minutes that were up and down, but Ariel's taken his opportunities, man. He looks slim, and these guys were setting great screens. They brought the energy, and I thought they were the tempo setters early. The Knicks were up 15 at the half. That's probably the most impressive thing for me in the poll, fam. If I told y'all opening night we're up 15 at the half, that's a complete and utter domination against, let's not forget, a team that's supposed to be our biggest rivals out east. Damn. So let us know in the chat, guys. Are you more underwhelmed by Cleveland now, or are you just giving us total big ups? Is this just all about the New York Knicks tonight, or is it about a little bit about Cleveland being underwhelming, right? But I think we overwhelm them with our depth, right? On that note, D. Grant says, CT, the Cavs are no joke. They can score like crazy, and they're missing some key pieces tonight. Yeah, facts. As we get into it, familiar faces at MSG. Shout out to Clyde, man. He had me in tears tonight, man. He was in mid-season form with the catchphrases. It's like we never left, fam. It feels great to have Knicks back. And like I said, 65-50 at the half. The Knicks completely dominated. I thought our energy was contagious, outrageous. And the fast break buckets. Once again, Mikal Bridges, he was the best player in the first quarter for me, right? He looked silky smooth. He looked light on his feet. He looked like a new beast, a new man, as we've seen in preseason. No Thibodeau. I thought, shout out to Mike Brown, the offense looked good early. And we looked like the Cleveland last season where we were just overwhelming them and the other team just had no answer. The help was coming quick. Our rotations were sharp. Hands in the cookie jar, getting steals, deflections, and I guess the 11-man rotation, was really paying off for us tonight. Shout out Lily Phillips in the building. Everyone else coming through. David M. CC says the new era has just begun. Lily Phillips says Brown trusted Tyler, something Tibbs wouldn't have done on opening night. Yeah, you automatically see the faith repaid, fam. Leon, giving Mike Brown that opportunity, talking about collaboration, talking about, utilizing the weapons that we have. And here we are, 11-man rotation in the first half. So that is leading in the poll right now for what impressed you the most from tonight. 54% say 11 guys in the first half. Next option is at 24%, says Deuce and Brunson minutes together. Not going to lie, man, I've been waiting to see that serious minutes with Deuce and Brunson, and that was great. Third, 16% assists and the steals, and up 15 points at the half is coming in at 5% too. Chris Gotti says, I like the graphics, CT. Appreciate you, fam. We've been on our grind, and I can't wait to bring you awesome content all season long. Got some surprises up our sleeves as well, so stay tuned. Um, Knicks won today, not too hyped about the win. It was necessary to beat them without Garland, Hunter, and Strauss, right? So yeah, good constructive comment. I feel you on it. We got to handle our business, but it's just a relief, get out on the right foot, put your best foot forward, and get that win. It's psychological at the end of the day. We weren't able to climb the hump, over Cleveland last season. And yes, they were missing some key players, but look at some guys that we have out as well. We do have to talk about Mitch. We do have to talk about Josh Hart, who is going to make our bench even more strong, ladies and gentlemen. Also, does that change your thinking about Mitchie starting? Right. If he's going to be in and he's going to be out constantly, hopefully not. But is that going to disrupt the flow? Right. Do we just trust Ariel Hukporti now, like CC says? Not going to lie, Hukporti is here. Right. Nobody can doubt Hukporti right now. He is young. He's hungry. He's proven it. And it's just a great feeling to have adequate backup now and adequate depth, ladies and gentlemen. Now, with everyone healthy tonight, this would have been my, rotation, right? So going into tonight, obviously we knew Mitch wasn't going to play, Hart wasn't going to play, announced yesterday, but we weren't quite sure about Cat. He was dealing with the quad, and look, shout outs to Cat. Great performance for a guy that came in that was questionable, then doubtful, then questionable again. But even if Mitchie and Hart played, Ariel Hukporti is in my 10-man. But the fact that Tyler Kolek stepped up and Trey Jemison, a two-way player, getting major minutes, right? Tom Thibodeau wouldn't play, and we're not going to make this about Tibbs because we've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's facts. Tibbs wouldn't have played a two-way player, last season on opening night, and Tyler Kolek as well. So we're running deep, ladies and gentlemen. We're running mob deep right now. Two heavy rotations, two starters from last season out, and we're running that 11-man. We're running guys out of the gym now, right? If you can't beat your enemy, Indiana, you learn from them, eh? Indiana, I think, taught us a valuable lesson about going deeper into our rotation. You see Cleveland doing the same thing. As David says, CAVS were missing some guys. CC says last year we would have lost that game. I think that's true. I think we could have lost that one, but guys definitely stepped up. Deuce and OG look fresh as well with their minutes down. I've got to check the minutes in a minute. Shout out to Glenn Jones. Appreciate you for the comment. Salute CT, bro, as always. I'm happy to see us destroy the Cavs. It's only one game, but winning never gets old. Yep, best believe that. So yeah, one of the other major talking points out of this is the lineups, right? I'm loving the rotation patterns from Mike Brown so far. So far, so good. And Deuce McBride and Jalen Brunson, fam. Knicks Nation, been waiting to see this a lot more, and we got it tonight. And I think we capitalized in those minutes, fam. So how are y'all feeling with Brunson off the ball? Brunson off the ball some. I thought he looked more fresh to close the game out, and I think it was to our benefit, ladies and gentlemen. I thought we closed the game out strong, and we were the fresher team. As I bring up the numbers, OG played 37 minutes, Cat only played 30, Ariel 17, Mikal Bridges played 33, Brunson only 34, Yabusele, who we're going to hit on, had a quiet night. He's still finding his rhythm, man. He's finding his feet with this new club. Miles McBride had 25 minutes, so he saw a elevation in minutes. Trey Jemison, 7. Shamet, who was a solid role player tonight, fam. Shout out to the Landry Shamet Hive. He was solid, 2 of 3 from downtown. Clarkson, up and down, a little sloppy at times, but you see the vision. You see how he can help. I think, creating offense. And then Tyler Kolek, one of the surprises of the night, finished 3 of 6 and was aggressive. Little too aggressive with the 3-point shot. I would like Kolek to try to get to the rack a lot more, and I think he was getting some good looks and was finding guys. The ball was moving, but he did pass up on a couple of shots as well. So would love to see Tyler continue to get minutes, right? Is this a precursor for the season ahead, guys? We're talking about Tyler Kolek minutes in game 1. D. Grant says, how tall is Jemison? He's a little under, I think, 6'10", 6'10", maybe 6'10" and change, fam. So he's not quite a 7-footer. You see some of the limitations, but I love the way that the fact that he goes vertical. Lily Phillips says, yeah, do you think they sit Cat next game? That's not a bad shout. I hadn't really thought about it, Lily. I think Boston, yeah, it won't hurt to kind of, hold back a little bit, and see what Boston can do without some of our best players. But yeah, if Cat's not feeling right, I think, we gotta continue to do what we're doing with Mitch, I think, and just play the long game, and let some other guys step up. Maybe let Yabu get a start next to Huck Porty, try to get his offense going. But yeah, Cat was warrior-like tonight, I think, stepping up. On that note, Eddie says Cat needs to stop with the dumb fouls. Play smart, and you can stay longer on the court. 100%, Eddie. I think some of those things that Cat just may not be able to shake. I think it's just in his game, unfortunately. Hopefully Mike Brown, Brendan O'Connor, and the rest of the coaching staff can really, improve his defense. Because there will be times where we need, Cat to play a lot of 5 minutes, with Mitch's health. And look, we really are going to talk about Mitch tonight in street close, game 1. But not before we're done shouting out these guys, because they earned the dub, and they definitely, took advantage of a depleted Cleveland. But yeah, whenever we needed a bucket and the offense was stalling, Deuce McBride showed his worth and why he is a starting quality player in the NBA, fam. I thought they gave Deuce too much space, too much daylight. And you see guys like Sam Merrill and Dean Wade, they're not great defenders. They can't get around those screens. And our ball movement, a nice little hockey assist from JB to Huck, gets Deuce into the step-in 3. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. Deuce and Brunson minutes. It's a dual 3-point threat. So look at Brunson. He's chilling. He's literally playing the facilitator role, stepping back. And he knows that it's nothing but money with that one, fam. So look, big tick. If I'm going to give Mike Brown the grade, it's definitely the solid. It's the solid grade, fam. As was Tyler Kolek, fam. I see a lot of people hungry to see more Tyler Kolek, and also mentioning the Thibodeau name tonight, fam. Great question from my guy Buzzer B. Says, what would have Mike Brown done better? I thought he called timeouts at a good time, so I'll give him a tick there. I think just some of the lineups maybe in that third, buzzer. Our offense did get a little bit stagnant in that third quarter, and our defense slipped. But look, Donovan Mitchell is a great player. So it was close to a flawless night for me, for Mike Brown, personally. I've been crying out for that 11-man. A lot of people said 9. Some people said 10. I was always saying 11, fam. I would love us to continue to run this 11-man. What the hell? Right, this is early in the season stuff, fam. It's just going to keep guys in rhythm, because there are going to be guys, have to sit back-to-backs. Mike Brown's going to practice a lot. Let's not forget about that. And so Cat's already banged up. Hart's banged up. Mitch is banged up. Let's keep these other guys on the rhythm, fam. Let's keep them rolling. Another tick for Mike Brown, like Eddie says here, ball movement is less predictability, fam. Yeah, they didn't know where the shots were coming from tonight, fam. And, great spread, ball movement, and shot distribution tonight, Eddie. Demario shout out, says, go Knicks. Prezi the boss says, you make tweaks, but all of the championship teams have played for years together before winning the chip. Absolutely they do, Prezi. I think, remember Boston lost the finals before they had to come back and win it. Denver Nuggets, they lost a finals, I think, before they came back and climbed the mountain. Hopefully it's our year, fam. I'm feeling good about it. Johnny Cheeba's in the house, shout out. Yeah, what could the Knicks have done better? I mean, look, some guys are underperforming still. It's early, but Gershon Yabusele, I know he's capable of a lot more than what we're getting. 0 points, a donut. Gave us an offensive rebound, missed a couple of shots, but look, 12 minutes. I'm not going to crash out over Yabu getting 12 minutes. He's a body. He's a warm body right now. He can offer that spacing threat, but he's not hitting the threes at the moment. I see a topic around his playing weight. I think he was coming in at 280 pounds. I mean, that's a heavy man, but hopefully he can, get into better shape, I think, as the season progresses. But Gershon Yabusele, man, we haven't had a big man with that kind of skill set, I think, coming off the bench for a minute. So I'm expecting big things. Slow start, but I'm still expecting big things from Yabusele. Also Trey Jemison out there. Look, not going to expect much offense from him, but he's doing a lot of the dirty work. Shout out to Bill Daughtry, our guy, friend of the show. And he's always talking about, okay, we've got OG who does a lot of the dirty work. Josh Hart. The Knicks need more guys that are going to do some of that dirty work. And we had those guys tonight. Trey Jemison, Landry. We had Mikal Bridges get his hands dirty. We also had Miles McBride always getting his hands dirty as well, fam. A little, a spare a thought for Muhammad Diawara, who, deserves some minutes, but I think they're going to play the long game with Muhammad Diawara. So, he'll get opportunities. But yeah, Muhammad Diawara didn't get any action tonight. It was Kolek and Trey Jemison that came in, fam. But how nice. We're giving out 2 game balls, fam, on opening night. Michael Drake says, yeah, Yabu, he will get better. Chris Gotti would like to play Diawara over Yabu too. Yep. Great points here from CC. Says Mike Brown kept his coaching staff involved. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, CC. I've been thinking it's not just about Brown versus Tibbs and, and what we're going to see from those guys. It's all about collaboration. I think we're getting a lot more input from the assistant coaches, right? And it's showing up in our spread ball movement, our assists, our defensive energy looks higher as we bring these stats up. It's been a common theme right now with the steals, 8 steals tonight, and also forcing a lot of turnovers, blocks for tonight. So yeah, the team got gritty. 22 assists I like. 16 fast break points is not bad. We'd like to see if we can get that up to 20, 25. We won the second chance points with the extra rebounds as well, with no Mitch. So that's another, I think, mental victory tonight, fam. Everyone thinking that we're a one-trick pony with Mitch. I think they're discounting some of the depth that the New York Knicks have now. OG played some of the 5. Yabu's a good rebounder. Huck Porty, he started great on the rebounds as well. Cat's a great rebounder as well. So look, Mitch is, he takes us to another dimension, obviously, but I think without Mitch, we're still a very strong rebounding club. As you see, Donovan Mitchell finished with 31. I mean, he went 21 points in the third, and he was basically unstoppable. at that point. But Mike Brown called out the timeouts, and we started the fourth quarter a lot better with our rotations. Fam. And look, we're not as solid with Huck Pority or Jemison as versus with Mitch. However, I think with Huck Pority defensively, we're still sound. We're very solid. And Huck Pority can move his feet, and he runs the floor extremely well. And also, as I said earlier, he sets great screens, fam. So yeah, how did y'all see our rotations tonight defensively? Anything different? I think we were closing out on the shooters better. The third quarter, we kind of let that slip. But I thought our rotations to start the game, man, was so sharp. Man, we came out with so much energy. And look, it's opening night, so that's to be expected. Let's see how it plays out in the next one. Another pleasing thing tonight, man, like Buzzer says, 5 guys in double figures. Wow. I think, most nights, fam, we should have 8 to 10 guys in potential double figures. With no Hart tonight, Yabu had the donut. But I do think we're in a really good place, fam. If we're able to play 11 guys opening night and you're missing 2 key players, I think you're in a good position. Now, what does this mean moving forward for Tyler Kolek, right? I mean, we continue to roll these clips, fam. Great feed from Ariel Hukporty, finding Cat baseline. Great first quarter. Again, Huck was super involved. He was the catalyst, I think, for the Knicks on both sides, getting some stops and also helping the ball move. I've been a fan of the double big lineups. Remember we dominated Cleveland 2 years ago? They were talking about the Twin Towers, and then we came out with Mitchell Robinson. And ever since then, we needed to stick to that. Johnny Chiba says Mike Brown's roster subs were great to see, so anti-Tibbs. D. Grant says Cooper Flag looks like a stud. Yeah, we're going to take a look around the league with opening night. But yeah, 100% agree with Johnny Chiba. I think Mike Brown's got a good feel for his guys and what they're capable of, and he's empowering them right now and giving them early chances. If we rewind all the way back 12 months, fam, my hopes were high. Heading into opening night last season when Tibbs played Dardier. Y'all remember, out of nowhere, Tibbs played Dardier opening night last season in Boston. And I thought, man, we got something here. He's going to play our wing that we drafted. And lo and behold, Tibbs never played Dardier after that. I know, he's still young and raw, but I would have liked to see him get more opportunities last season. Hopefully this season, and I strongly feel like it'll be different. As Jalen Brunson got our first points of the season, a great swing play, fam, Cat to Brunson to get us on the board, fam, for season 26. Let's go. There's a New York Knicks 119, 111. You're rocking out with the streets are buzzing. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, we shout you guys out. Let us know your thoughts on a big win tonight. As we look ahead later in the show, we've got Boston, fam, Friday night Knicks, and our first Amazon Prime night, 7:30 tip against Boston. Y'all seen the news? Tom Thibodeau at Celtics practice, giving them tips and talking about how the New York Knicks defeated Boston last season, fam. Look, it doesn't bother me too much because I know Tibbs is out of a job right now, and he just can't stand still for a second. Tibbs is out here. He's got the vibes. It's a brand new season. I know Tibbs is disappointed that he ain't with us no more. Say whatever you want about Tibbs, but he definitely bleeds orange and blue. Disappointed that he got fired, but it is what it is, fam. This is a professional business, and you get an opportunity, you got to earn your keep, and it's next guy up, right? It's a big season ahead with championship aspirations, And if guys aren't producing, let that be a message. The next guy is going to step up and take that crown right now. No Dardier, no Diawara tonight, no McCullough, and some surprises to come out with Tyler, the creator, getting some action. Simon says Tyler was great. Thanks, Brogdon. Yeah, good comment, Simon. As I said, one guy steps up, one guy retires, the next guy steps up. Mellow Mike, what's up? Shout out. Jason says, no big deal. We're not the same team anymore. Yeah, Paula says Tibbs was talking bad about her. Who knows what he was saying, man? But yeah, he won a championship with Boston, so he has connections out there. If he was in Indiana's locker room, man, all bets are off. If we find out that Tibbs is in Indiana's locker room, man, you can't be sleeping with the enemy out there that eliminated us. uh, yeah, Johnny Chiba says, CT, what did I tell you about Tyler Kolek playing with the starters? He could have had a lot more dimes tonight. And your team Kolek all the way. Yeah, look, I'm team homegrown, and you got guys like Tyler that can play. I mean, we've seen it now, and as you say, if you put these guys with NBA guys, they look better. Johnny Chiba. Let's go back to summer league. People talking about Marajon Beauchamp. People talking about him and some other guys, but Kolek, I think he's a confidence player right now too. I think if he can get his confidence up, the way he was, organizing and orchestrating the offense was a thing of beauty, and hopefully he can continue to get some opportunities, hit shots, stay aggressive. Look, he was playing physical. He was drawing some fouls. Defensively, we know he's going to give up a little bit on that side, but I mean, he's basically a second round draft pick. That's a guy that has potential first round talent. It's great to see him get that opportunity. That bounce pass to OG was amazing. And the crowd was fired up in this one to see the OG Deuce game ball. Damn. So, look, we're in a situation where Brunson and Cat, weren't our main guys, and we won comfortably in the end. Buzzer says, I like Kolek, but I want to see a larger sample. 100%. Gray says, respect to Kolek. 100% to that as well. You guys are on fire. And with that said, man, we're going to bring in a special person backstage joining us right now. Right, he's living it up on opening night, watching our New York Knicks dominate. The one and only EJ, my co-host, brother. How you feeling?
Hey, what's up, homie? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Doing well. Doing well. What did you think of our performance opening night? What were your expectations?
First off, shout out to the entire Knicks Buzz family. Thank you so much for having me on CT. It's been a minute. Missed everyone. Missed everyone totally entirely. If you're new to the Knicks Buzz family, my name is EJ. I'm typically on, but for the last year and change, some life stuff has been happening in school, getting my doctorate degree because of my mom who's passed away. But this was an amazing, amazing, amazing win tonight. Mike Brown, congratulations on your first win as New York Knicks head coach. This was very different from what we used to see during the Tom Thibodeau years. I believe 11 players played tonight. And what was really impressive with tonight's win, CT, was the way in which the game took place in terms of seeing different kinds of rotations, things we would not have seen last year, the last 3+ seasons. So at some point, seeing stretches where you see Landry Shamet on the floor and Juice McBride on the floor with Jalen Brunson, and your big on the floor is Cat. So these were unique lineups, and the reason why I was really impressed with the utilization of the rotations and the entire bench, it makes it harder for opposing teams to know how to prepare for you. When you have random lineups and rotations on the floor, you are much more difficult to prepare for. So this was an impressive win. This is a great way to start the season. And one more thing before I hand it back off to you. What also makes this win impressive is we did it without Josh Hart. We did it without Mitchell Robinson. So the fact that you have two key rotation pieces, maybe your sixth man, your seventh man, off of the bench, not being available, and for the most part, this being a pretty representative win, this was a great, great way to start the season. So we're one down, 81 to go before we get to the playoffs.
Yes, sir. My guy EJ, spot on as always. A lot of love coming through the chat. Salute to EJ. You've always been on your grind and letting people know what you've been up to.
Thank you
And
so much.
definitely great to have you join us on opening night. And yeah, you spelled out the positives, and not to say there's like a lot of negatives, but if there's anything that's concerning you right now, it's opening night and we ran 11 guys out there and we got the win. Can you see this carrying on? Can you see us, playing 10, 11, 12 men sometimes? And what are your thoughts on the Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, potential injury situation with Mike Brown looking to practice a lot more and just continuing on this extended rotation? Do you think that's going to be a common thing for this season?
We can only hope. We can only hope. I believe Golden State tried a similar situation where they were trying to run out a 10-man rotation last season, and they got to a point where they had to solidify it and move it down to 8 players. Ideally, I think a lot of coaches would like to extend the rotations, extend the number of players that they're playing. But at some point, you have to figure out who are going to be your top 8 players. So is this going to be the norm every single night? Most likely not. But I think for the first part of this season, because one of the things I've learned about professional sports, particularly sports like basketball and football, your first few weeks of games, you're still rounding into shape. You're still trying to get, cohesion. You're not, the season has started, but the season has not started. So I heard that expression from Steve Young, where he talked about professional football, and at the time they were 16 games, and he said like the first 4 or 5 games are still part of what he called the extended preseason. In many ways, this was opening night, but this is still an extension of the preseason. And so I think for Mike Brown, who is still trying to figure out his players, he's still trying to get cohesion. This might be the norm for the next month or so. But once you get a Josh Hart back, once you get a Mitchell Robinson back, you're gonna have to figure out you're gonna figure out and solidify your lineups and to figure out your rotations more. But the other key aspect of this, I love seeing Tyler Kolek. I love seeing Ariel Hartporty play big minutes in key situations because this is really how you further player development. So all of this was a positive for me. All of this was great. Will it continue in perpetuity? We don't know. However, this is a great, great first step, particularly for those of us who were not sure about the hiring of Mike Brown. There are a lot of us who, Tom Thibodeau got us to the Eastern Conference Finals last season. So that means that the next step has to be either the same or reaching the finals. So this is a positive first step. Um, I'm not going to dwell on the negatives today because tonight was a great night. And, I'm on here with my boy CT, and we got an amazing win. And this is almost like we're walking by the sea. So this is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, man, I love it. And from what you said, I think what is sustainable is like, yeah, you got to know your best guys, obviously, and they're going to carry you to the most victories. I think late down the stretch, I think guys look more fresh. I think if anything, you can run these extended
Mm.
guys, first 3 quarters, bring the energy, maybe play more aggressive defensively, try to get more threes up, and then let guys take over in the fourth. Let your Brunson and your Cats
Yep.
sort of
Yeah.
do their most of their damage in the fourth. I think that's what's going to be the most sustainable thing. Now you're not going to be running some extended rotation in late in the games, but if it can help us over the 82 games and we're not exerting as many bodies and guys are able to stay active if and when their number's called, then I think, yeah, that's where we're at. We're a championship caliber team, which is, amazing to say. And most of those teams do have, they might only play 8 or 9 traditionally if we're going back
Yep.
a couple of decades, EJ, like we know in the 90s. But even if there was an injury or two, every championship team would always have an 11th, 12th, 13th guy that would be capable of coming in and playing a role.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, one of the complaints about this team for the last two seasons was depth of rotation, depth of the roster. And as you said, like, to be a championship contender in this league, you have to have a depth of rotation, and depth of roster. I think one of the things that we saw this first night is Tyler Kolek playing significant minutes. I mean, to the extent of which where Jordan Clarkson was somewhat missing, um, in terms of minutes, but that's actually a good thing because this is a long season. So perhaps we will have games where certain players are going to play more minutes, more in terms of like their key roles and such. Um, but the idea of I was reading Bleacher Report prior to tonight's game, and one of the critiques of the Knicks roster was this question of was the roster deep enough? I think tonight you had an opportunity to see against a Cleveland team who, did incredibly well last season and is basically returning the same team in addition with Lonzo Ball, you had that depth of roster show up tonight and to really provide energy off the bench so that maybe that our key players aren't playing 40 minutes a night, aren't playing 38 minutes a night, which was the major complaint last season. And to Buzzer, thank you so much for the shout out. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been shouting me out. Buzzer, was Mike Brown my first choice? No, I'd be lying to say that Mike Brown was my first choice. And I did have a chance to appear on the program when we were doing the coaching search. But one of the things I've learned as a Yankees fan, and I remember this in terms of Joe Torre during the '90s, where people were like, clueless Joe. Uh, you never know what is it about the coach that might unlock certain things, and I think we all fall prey to this idea of we want the name brand, we want the name recognition. Sometimes it's a player coach relationship might something might be happening in the background that we don't understand, we don't see, and it's that coach that unlocks it. So I'm willing to give Mike Brown a chance, um, because he knows better basketball than I do. Was he my number one choice? No. Would I have fired Tom Thibodeau? Probably not. I mean, because to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's kind of crazy to me to fire that particular coach, but I can see the benefit tonight in terms of extending the roster and for players to play fewer minutes. So I'm excited about this being game one. I'm excited about the results of game one. CT and I were texting about this, and I did text him this in advance. In the second quarter, I said, third quarter will be the test. And that's the thing we still have to work on is those third quarter doldrums. Why do they still continue to occur?
Yeah, it had me nervous up 15 because the
Hmm.
other team is going to make that run, and ideally you want to be up by as much as possible. But
Absolutely.
when you're up 15, it's a very Knicks thing to have to grind it out. And but to our credit, we grinded it out, and I think we're still building chemistry. I mean, you can't say Tyler Kolek is used to playing with guys and Trey Jemison and you know Jordan Clarkson, and this is game one. But they
Yeah.
battled it out, they pulled it out, and we're all happy about it, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to everyone in the chat. CT with EJ. Metaphysical Logic says, I love the ball movement. I love that Brown is using the bench. I like that Kolek is doing what he was brought here to do. You don't need to trade away those young guys. Yeah, on that note,
Yeah.
man, great comment from Meta. EJ, how did you feel about the Brogdon news, when he retired out of
Yeah.
nowhere? Did you immediately think about Kolek, or did you think they were going to get another vet?
You know what, the chatter, first off, congratulations to Malcolm Brogdon. Really good, solid career. Um, do a lot of fishing. Go to the lake, go to the sea, and enjoy retirement. We'll see you real soon. But in terms of the Brogdon retirement announcement, it came at a really peculiar time. Um, but at the same time, it was really a respite for Tyler Kolek and Pacome Dadier because there were conversations about how to retain both Landry Shamet as well as Malcolm Brogdon. I think one of the things the organizations can rest its hat on is that for the last few seasons, it's been able to player develop a few players. So, for example, Emmanuel quickly, if we remember his ascendancy that happened under the Knicks administration, RJ Barrett, to the extent in which RJ has flaws, his development took place under the Knicks watch. In terms of seeing what was happening with Miles McBride, same thing. So this is an opportunity in terms of Tyler Kolek to have a player who is on the cheap in terms of his contract and to develop him. Now, we already know when it's crunch time, the ball is not going to be in Tyler Kolek's hand. It's going to be in the ball's going to be in the hands of number 11. If Tyler Kolek is playing in the fourth quarter and we're down by two, there's a problem. So I think there's nothing wrong with using this season to have young players and to develop them, particularly because, and we've been talking about this for years. This is now season number 4. I don't want to just be in playoff contention or championship contention for just one season. I want to be in championship contention for multiple seasons. So having young, cheap players who have fewer miles on their legs, it's important to develop them. It's important to utilize them. So Malcolm Brogdon, enjoy the sea, enjoy fishing, enjoy the lake. Thank you for allowing us to have an opportunity to see if we can develop Tyler Kolek. And he had some crisp passes tonight. And, so we're seeing one on the screen right now. I'm interested to see how much he's going to develop in the next couple of months and the season.
Yeah, I think it's kind of great to think that he was drafted for this purpose, really.
Yep.
What did most Nick fans say on draft night? Oh, there's our backup point guard, you know? And we're kind of seeing that through. Deuce McBride was a guy that we envisioned when he was drafted to see, oh, he's going to be that reserve guard, defend well. We didn't think Deuce's shooting might not come along this
Hmm.
much. So, who's to say that Tyler Kolek might not develop a more consistent jumper, and then we're really dealing with something, in this situation with a tricky financial, salary cap.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but, let me ask you about the three standouts for me: Mikal Bridges, OG, Deuce McBride. Are you noticing anything different with these guys with the new coach now?
I think it's early to come to a conclusive point with regards to like what's the difference with regards to those three players tonight versus their stays with Tom Thibodeau. The big thing I will say is that we're getting a chance to see Mikal Bridges season 2. It can never be understated. It can never be understated how important it is to allow for a player to have a second season to mature into a system, to mature into a city. I mean, I think we sometimes, we 2K professional sports a little bit too much. We NBA 2K real life a little bit too much, where you make a major trade in 2K and it doesn't take into consideration like life changes, like having to move from one city to another, having to move family from one city to another, having to adjust to a different role. So the role that Mikal Bridges was playing with the Nets versus the role that he's going to be playing with the Knicks now, they're two very different roles. He went from a number one or a number 1B to a number 3, sometimes a number 4, and that takes some time. So I think that what we're seeing is a lot more confidence in terms of that, some of those variables taking shape. Um, but I do foresee them growing in part because of just comfortability in terms of them being part of this organization and having been part of this organization now for several years, as opposed to last year, where I think last year was OG's first full season with the Knicks. Uh, this is Mikel's proper training camp, proper summer off season, having an opportunity to work out with teammates. The same could be said with Cat. I mean, let's not even forget about that as well too. So if 3/5 of your your starting lineup, this is like really their first proper camp, their first proper opportunity to play with one another. We're going to see improvement. Basketball is about the reps. It's about familiarity. Again, like there's nothing to me, like I spent a lot of time, like trying to figure out ways of decompressing with my doctoral program. And one of the things I love doing now is just walking on the beach, walking by the sea, and like learning that you have to figure out like how do I now enjoy this moment and working collaboratively with people. And so this is really so buzzard. Now I'm not done yet. I have 2 more years to go, um, but I will be around more. But I'm excited for how much I've seen the growth transpire in just this one game alone.
Yeah, I'm seeing, me personally, I'm seeing, well, tonight as well, we saw leadership, like, okay, Brunson was struggling a bit, and Cat. in and out of foul trouble, still doing
Yeah.
some dumb things, and I'm seeing Deuce like he's like, I'm not letting us lose this game. And then you see OG come out with that. When OG gets mad, when he gets angry, you really see like, okay, everyone's in trouble. And then I'm seeing it with Mikal Bridges now. He's got more of a leadership role, bringing the ball up the court.
Hmm.
Took over a couple of possessions where we needed a bucket, just like he did in the playoffs. So I think, yeah, you look at Brunson and Cat as the all NBA players of the team and the most skilled and talented. But then after those guys, it's your Deuces, OGs, McCalls, and you probably
Hmm.
throw in Josh Hart and
Yes.
Mitchell
Mitch
Robinson.
Robinson. Yeah.
And if we win a championship, it's because of those guys, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we want to see. First game of the year, having the ability to set the tone, having one of the things we talked about at the end of last season is what were the major moves that the Knicks could make. And again, this is the 2Kification. Totally made up that word, but the 2Kification of the NBA, where we always think that the best way to improve a roster is through a trade or through a magical signing. This second apron is so punitive that internal improvement is going to have to be the major mechanism by which a lot of teams improve. And so if we can see, to quote Clyde, who's on the background, if we can see quantum leaps from a Deuce McBride, if we can see a growth in his jump shot and seeing more of a steady growth in that jump shot, him being able to actually see the lanes and actually do a lot more dribble penetration, if we can see more confidence in terms of the two-way player from whom we traded 4 draft picks in terms of Mikal Bridges, if OG becomes again that defensive stalwart, that two-way player wing, if we see those internal improvements on the roster, that can lead to 3, 4 games in terms of improvement. And we're now talking about the Knicks contending for a top spot or a second place in the NBA Eastern Conference. So that's what we're going to need, like because this second apron, it's going to be hard to envision us like making certain moves. We have to think about internal improvement first now.
Yeah, and I said this earlier in the stream actually, EJ, before you came in. I'm
Hmm.
like, if you lose to an opponent, it's good that you learn something from them. It's never good to lose, but what did Cleveland do tonight and we do that Indiana have been doing, and they sent both of us home, is
Hmm.
play more guys. And you look at, I didn't see the game, but last night Houston double overtime
Yeah.
against OKC, they lose Fred Van Vliet, right? I don't want to talk about injuries because I hope they don't happen, but it's a natural thing that could happen. And
Yeah.
so I think this is probably the year where I'm less worried about if a guy misses time, because we are taking the time to. Well, Leon Rose has built a deeper roster now, and this is probably the deepest roster in terms of playable talent, all the way to the two ways. I mean, Trey Jemison seeing some minutes,
I
and
know.
like Meta said, we haven't unleashed Diawara yet. David, sorry, says we have not unleashed Diawara yet. This is my sleeper and can back up Cat.
Yeah. 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 This, what you're saying about the injuries. I mean, one of the things that I think about every time we take the court, you're always holding your breath, and I mean, this was the concern about Thibodeau. So Buzzer asked me the question of, did I want Thibodeau to be fired? Initially I didn't. I was not necessarily a Thibodeau defender, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. But there was one component to Thibodeau's coaching that was somewhat broken, and that was having players in with 2 minutes left, and it's like a 13 point, 14 point lead. And in this league, where it only takes one tweak, one ACL. I mean, how many ACLs did we see at the end of last season? And so, in some respects, this is what makes basketball so compelling. Is you do have to enjoy the now. You have to totally enjoy the now. Um, you have to enjoy a win like this tonight. And I'm always cautiously optimistic. I'm always like, okay, did everyone get off the court okay? All right, great. Thank you. But this is, like you said earlier, um, this is why having a deep rotation is so important. This is why internal player development is so important because guys are going to miss games. Guys are going to get nicks, they're going to get bruises, they're going to get ankle sprains. And so, one of the things that we have to be impressed about is that you were able to pick up a Tyler Kolek, who's going to be a serviceable point guard in this league. You have to be you have to be intrigued by Upacom Dadier and what he might possibly be. Maybe not this season, but perhaps next season, because those are the pieces that you need if God forbid, an OG goes down for 10 games, 15 games. If Jalen gets nicked up, I mean, because Jalen does get nicked up every season, you need those kinds of young pieces, those young legs who are a little bit more durable, who don't have as many miles to really pick up the slack. And because we know what this is all about, this is not about the first 82. This is not about the first 82. In the words of a very famous Philadelphia 76er, it's about faux. It's about winning the chip. It's about winning four series and making it to that Larry O'Brien trophy.
Yeah, and in that question about, who wanted Mike Brown or was Mike Brown your first choice? He wasn't
Mhm.
mine
Yeah,
either, but the more I got to think about it, what did they kind of target? Leon was looking for experience.
yeah.
What was the difference between him and Taylor Jenkins or a couple of the other names they were looking at? It was championship experience. In a season where you're going in, imagine putting a relatively young, inexperienced coach or that hasn't proven it yet. Imagine putting them
Mm,
in the hot seat and saying, "Hey, you
yeah,
got to go in and win a chip."
yeah, yeah.
The wheels are going to fall off. And so Mike Brown, not the most like sexiest name out there, but the more I think about it, EJ, and you look at the time he spent with Golden State and Steve Kerr, and a couple of failings and a few firings, and I think this could be his coming to his greatest moment or finest hour, hopefully.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's again, like we get tied up in terms of names, we get tied up in terms of, pride. You can't assume that this is like a real question that we could probably talk about during the offseason. Would Steve Kerr be Steve Kerr if he didn't have Steph Curry, a young Draymond Green, a young Klay Thompson, a still somewhat near his prime Andre Iguodala? You know, great coaches to some extent need great players. And so I think that's part of the issue that we have with Mike Brown is that he did have great players, but there's some other ingredients you need for things to work out well. So I can't hold for example, I can't hold Sacramento's failures. I can't give a single-handed blame to Mike Brown. There are other factors that lead to success, and there are other factors that lead to failures. And it's sometimes beyond the coaches, sometimes beyond the players. It could be poor administration. It could be poor leadership, like in the front office. It could be poor salary cap management. So I think what we're seeing with Mike Brown, at least the first game, and again, this is one game of 82, there's 81 more left, there are 81 more left, is we had a great night. Third quarter was a little bit scary, but maybe he is the right coach. Maybe he is the Joe Torre of the New York Knicks, now 30 plus years later. Um, Again, like there's so many different ingredients that go into perfect coach, perfect team, perfect front office, perfect cap salary management. When you get players, how much those players are going to cost in terms of their portion of the salary cap. So many different factors. So again, I'm tempering myself, but I'm very happy that we won this first game.
Yeah, a bogey team that we weren't able to defeat last season. So
Yeah.
I think the confidence just got to grow from this, guys. We couldn't beat Boston in the regular season last season. We take them down like a giant killer, and now we come out first game of the following season. We knock off Cleveland. So one thing I can take from today, EJ, and tell me if this is an overreaction, but
Hmm.
I feel stronger than ever that this is our best chance. Like I think we have a really good chance at actually winning the championship. The best chance probably of my lifetime. And I can only speak for myself, but how
Yeah.
do you guys feel?
I think, I mean, this is the conversation. This is really the conversation that a lot of pundits are having all over the league. Is this the season for the Knicks? I think that's what made the bit of firing shocking was that we were on the precipice of going to the NBA Finals last season. I think the team is built to go to the finals at this point. The thing is, though, and this is what makes it also scary, is that a lot of this is luck. You know, the fact that Jason Tatum is talking about, coming back this season, will he be able to do it? Now, of course, most of us rational fans don't think there's a chance that he'll be able to do it. But if there were a time, if there were a particular season where the path seems to be clear for the Knicks to be successful at finally making it back to the NBA Finals and perhaps even winning it, this would be it. The fact that, for example, a lot of the conversation in the last couple of weeks have been about the extent to which Giannis is unhappy in Milwaukee, that kind of takes them off the board. The fact that Indiana doesn't have Halliburton on this particular season, that wipes them off the board. Tatum in Boston, that wipes them off the board. There seems to be something about Cleveland where, in so much as they do really well in the regular season, something always seems to hamper their performance in the playoffs. Maybe that's the team we need to be concerned about. Miami doesn't seem to be Miami. So the path seems to be there. But I want to channel our friend Bill Daughtry. Injuries, 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 injuries. That's the key to making sure that we don't pick up any silly injuries and that people don't miss extended time. But otherwise, this might be a very, very, very special season for us.
Yeah, no doubt. Just to add as well, if we have 14 guys on the roster and the Knicks can get away to add 15
Hmm.
around April 2nd, which would be basically the final week or weeks of the season, which would basically just be for a playoff body, you know. But Leon Rose has made an in-season trade, EJ, every
Hmm.
single season, right? You
Hmm.
mentioned the name Giannis. I'm not expecting I'm not expecting anything to happen mid-season with that. But if
Hmm.
Leon Rose has made an in-season trade every season, I could see it being some kind of like smaller move. Maybe if there is an injury or the point guard spot, they want to add some depth with some guys out there like a DeLon Wright, Dennis Smith
Yep.
Jr. Is it just fully dependent on Kolek taking his chance? Do you think we could add another center if Mitch, is missing time? Like, what would you do?
I think you nailed the two positions that are of concern, and you nail it in the order in which they're concerned. So I would prioritize a backup point guard, a seasoned backup point guard. I think that's why the Malcolm Brogdon retirement was so surprising and so jarring for so many fans, is because it shored up what many of us would consider to be our weakest flaw at that point, is that you have a veteran backup point guard who's reliable. And we did even see this a little bit during the second quarter, where there seemed to be times where the ball was in Jordan Clarkson's hands and it didn't seem as organized as it possibly could be. You do need, especially if you're going to have Cat on the floor, rather, you do need someone to really be good at setting up the team, setting up the offense, ensuring that things run smoothly, so that you don't have to jump the minutes of Jalen Brunson. You don't have to rush him in terms of getting rest. You don't have to like break rotation patterns, rotation minutes once they become more solidified. So that would be my first priority, is finding a veteran point guard. The issue is, though, is finding that veteran point guard who's like a Malcolm Brogdon. They're all gone. So it's a question of, do you go back to Delon Wright, who seemed to have a little bit of a basketball IQ, but whose offensive game sometimes was, you know, questionable. Um, so I think the game that we could actually play is, which is the easier position to fill. So like, I think there's actually two questions. The question is which would I fill first, which would be point guard, but which might be the more likely position to fill. It actually might be a big man, because it might be easier to get a big man than it is a respectable backup point guard.
Yeah, with the big man, I'm just seeing a thing where it's the backbone of our defense. I can't
Hmm.
see us being a good defensive team if we don't have enough defensive big men. With the point guard situation, I could see there's enough guys where you could share it by committee,
Hmm.
but I just can't see us going 4 rounds in the playoffs without an anchor of the D. And so Mitch is probably the most important player defensively from that standpoint. You saw OG tonight, like dominant. But if the
Yeah.
Knicks are everyone's healthy and we're good, like we honestly don't really need the 15th guy. Maybe EJ could choose his favorite vibes guy. Like it could be a PJ Tucker or a Matt Ryan or I see Precious. Shout out to Jason, New York
Yeah.
native. Precious is free. It could just be a guy that elevates the locker room more.
Well, I do think that there's some merit to like a Precious. I'm actually a big fan of Precious. I mean, I know obviously um, he wasn't necessarily happy with how, his contract situation worked out here. But, one of those, I like those guys who are still serviceable players. I mean, Precious played some really big minutes. He's familiar with the area. One of the things I love about being a New York sports fan is that it takes a certain kind of player to play in New York City and to play successfully in New York City. Um, Obviously, Precious is an undersized man, but he also has that grit that reminds me of the 1990s. So my bias is Precious. Um, I'm not necessarily against a Garrison Matthews, to stretch out the floor. If there's anything if you put if you need to in a pinch and you can put out a Landry and a Garrison Matthews out on the floor to really open up space for a
Yeah,
cat, there's something to be said about that, particularly because one of my issues with Mitch is obviously, and we talk about this every off season, is to what extent has he developed his offensive game? Because him bearing down in the paint and clogging down the lane is not necessarily the best thing for the flow of the offense. He's not necessarily the strongest passer, particularly when he's in the block. So having components that can open up the floor, create more flow to the offense, but you're right, but also be a defensive presence. That's really like if we want the perfect team, which is almost impossible given the salary cap ramifications.
yeah.
Those would be the considerations.
Yeah, and with the Mitch contract sort of talk out there, maybe
Hmm.
Moses Brown is a guy that
Mm,
we know well
that's a good
from
one.
Westchester, and he's been a name, we've talked about a lot on this show. I don't know if Moses Brown is with the team, but he could be a solid third string, fourth string big if you're worried about Mitch and just making sure you have another insurance. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so great to have EJ with us, man. The floor is yours. Any questions you want to any thoughts or questions you have? You know, people want to know what you've been up to.
Yeah. So to everyone, and unfortunately, I got to tap out soon. Um, if you're unfamiliar with me, my name is EJ. I have been a part of Knicks Buzz, I believe now for 4 seasons. Buzzer, correct me if I'm wrong. And by the way, just shout out to everyone on the chat who's been showing me love. It's really good to be back. About a year and a half ago, I lost my mom to Alzheimer's. And so that's about the time where you guys stopped seeing me because it's a horrific disease where you actually see someone you love just dying in slow motion. And then at the same time, to honor her, my mom was huge on education. And so right before she passed away, I started getting my life together to actually start going to get my doctorate. So I'm actually in the process of getting my doctorate. So I'm in school all the time. So that's part of the reason why you guys have not seen me. There's never been any beef between me or CT. That's my boy. But it's a promise that I wanted to keep for my mother and to my mother. And so I'm in the process of that. So, Buzzer, to answer your question, I'm 2 years removed from getting my doctorate. So, um, I'm just excited about the season. So, you will see me more often. I made some things work out with my schedule so that I can be more available. But I definitely had to hop on for the first game, especially the first win. And so I'm excited. Please, and I always do this at the end of every show, but I want to do this now. Please do us a favor. YouTube needs us to have you guys smash that like button. Just click that like button. I think it's right here. Click the like button right there. Send this to someone who's a fan of Knicks basketball. There are 5,000 Knicks podcasts. All of a sudden, when CT and I started doing this, there were like four or five. A lot of them don't exist anymore because this is a lot of work. So just give it up for your boy CT, who puts in so many of the hours to do this. He holds the fort down. He's the captain of this ship. Um, and this is important work. And so the thing I love about Knicks Buzz is that we get so many quality guests on this program. We get so many people who are really part of the basketball community. But we need your help. We need your support to keep this working, to keep this thriving, to keep this rocking. We don't do clickbait. We don't do clickbait. We do real analysis. We do real insider information. We do real analyses of our favorite team. So please smash that like, smash that subscribe. Follow us on our socials. And I hope we go 82 and 0. And if we don't go 82 and 0, buzzer, hopefully we go 80 and 2. I'm not. I'm now a big fan. I've always been a big fan of Bill Daughtry. So I'm not going to give a number because you're always going to be embarrassed by that, but I do think that the Knicks will be a top three team. That is my prediction.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's always great to have you with us, EJ, and we'll link up soon. Definitely
Absolutely.
got some big things in the works. Be a part of history this season, guys. This is the year we're going to win that championship, and we're going to be there every step of the way with EJ and myself, uh, and the chat and everyone here. We've got some big things planned, and yeah, we'll definitely talk to EJ again real soon, man. Great to see you, man.
Great to see you guys. Take care. CT, we'll talk later. All right.
Yeah, definitely,
Bye, everyone.
fam. Peace, ladies and gentlemen. EJ buzzing with us tonight. Great to have EJ come through opening night, man. You never know who is going to come through, ladies and gentlemen. It's what we do. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Definitely, I feel the energy with this one. How are you guys feeling about Boston now? Friday night. It don't get any bigger than that. If you thought today's game was big, right, that's out of the way now. We swept Cleveland aside, and it's Boston who'll be looking for revenge. But the New York Knicks have their number right now. No Jason Tatum. Let's see how Boston did tonight. Right, I have not peeped any of the results from the league tonight. Now, let's bring this thing up. Okay. So we have the Jazz and the Clippers, 115-83. Wow, the Jazz putting the beat down on the Clippers. That is definitely something right there. The Mavericks and the Spurs are at halftime. The Spurs are up 60-51. The Blazers are close, 54-53 against the Timberwolves. The Kings, Mike Brown's former team, dominating the Phoenix Suns right now, 59-43. Chicago Bulls picked up a big win over the Detroit Pistons, which was a surprise. What else did we have today? So we had Boston lose to Philadelphia, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like VJ Edgecombe had a huge debut. And the Philadelphia 76ers have beaten our next opponent 117-116. That's a big surprise. Milwaukee Bucks got the win 133 to 120 over the Wiz. That's not too much of a surprise. The Grizzlies got the win 128 over the Pelicans. And the Raptors beat the Hawks 138-118. Some very interesting results. The Magic beat the Miami Heat 125-121. Charlotte Hornets get the big win over the Brooklyn Nets. And the NBA, man, is well and truly alive. Great to see some of those results. Now, on the injury front, it doesn't look like Hart is going to be ready to play, and it doesn't look like Mitchell Robinson is going to be ready to go in the next one. So they're set for some time on the sidelines, extended, according to Shams. Now, the Mitch thing, it just seems to have come out of nowhere. You know, obviously he's had a setback. It's a lower leg, ankle, I believe. With Mitch, like, he's so important to this team. We know defensively, but especially the end of the season, the business end of the season right now. And look at the way Huck Porty played tonight, the way Trey Jemison played. Are they as good as Huck Porty? Absolutely not. Do they give different things offensively and rebounding that will help us? Definitely. And so I think we're in an okay spot, right? If you tell me Mitch is going to miss like 20 or 30 games, then I'll be a little bit more worried. Right now, we have to find out more, but I'm not too worried right now. I just really aren't, you know. My concern level is probably at, you know, 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10. So 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10 is my concern level with Mitch. Like I said, if he's going to miss, you know, over a week or two, not too bad. If he's going to miss like 10 or 15 games, then we might start to really see the effects. But if we can handle Cleveland like we did tonight, you guys let me know how many teams in the East are really going to give us a lot of trouble. Obviously, we need to be consistent and we need to see more of what we saw tonight. But I'm not too worried about any of these other teams, to be honest with you. Um, Apoca Knicks now says 11 guys on the floor was the most impressive to me. So shout out to you and everyone in the chat that's voting in the poll. What was the most impressive thing tonight? Leading at 62%, say 11 guys played in the first half. Right. Coming in at number 2 is the Deuce Brunson minutes together. That was impressive. I'm glad we got to see a lot more of that. Second is the assists and the steals at 12%. And last but not least, leading by 15 points at halftime was the fourth most impressive thing, ladies and gentlemen. So continuity is key. We had McCall, Deuce, OG look strong, and Brunson and Cat played their roles. So guys who went through the battles with each other last season came up short. No Hart, no Mitch tonight, but those guys handled their business in a major way. And look, if we're going off preseason, it's been a common theme. OG's had a strong preseason. He looks ready to go. He looks healthy. Thank God. Mikal Bridges looks very healthy, as always. He looks ready to go. And he looks like a new man, does Mikal Bridges. You know, a lot of people are going to eat their words and perhaps owe him an apology and some regret over the discourse from last season. Again, a lot of us said you just never know. One season you can't really judge a guy. He had the pressure of the 5 first round picks. He had the pressure to acclimate real quick after that trade from Brooklyn. It was a kind of a shock. He came good in the playoffs, had some big moments in Mikal Bridges, but he's looked outstanding in preseason so far and excellent again tonight defensively. I think the communication is obviously going to get better as well with these guys, you know, knowing each other's game. Now we just need the new guys to really, you know, go through the battles and build that chemistry with Yard Basele, with Jordan Clarkson. Obviously, those guys are a little bit slow to hit the ground running, but Shamet's returning. He's looking like a solid role player again. Huck Porty, second year in the league. Some of y'all talking about Diawara as well. Looked strong last game with 7 points, I think, and 4 assists. Having his moments too. Trey Jemison looks like a really solid find on the two-way. So look, I'm hyped. Prayers and speedy recovery for Josh Hart and Mitch, but it's next man up, right? It's 82 games. It's a marathon, not a sprint, just like CC said. And yet you guys have been on fire tonight. 007 Angelo, shout out. Missed tonight's game, but hope you're doing well. Great to have you join us. Says Mitch probably got hurt stepping out of his 20-foot high pickup truck. Has anyone seen that thing? It's wild. I think he's got like 5 of those, man. I think he's got 5 or 10 pickup trucks. And he's looking to pick up more. But guess what? He's looking to pick up that bag. So Mitch knows it's a big season. And I didn't see many people disagree with me, but we had an episode in the preseason where we talked about, okay, what would be a nice contract offer? What would be a number that you would offer Mitch to see if you could get him to sign before free agency? And some people said 18, some people said 20, but I said you put a piece of paper in front of Mitch for 4 or 5 years, and you put maybe 14, 15, and he might sign that. You know, he might sign that because it's guaranteed money, it's security. But I think Mitch is a guy that will bet on himself as well. But once again, it's the risk. Let's say he only plays 30 NBA games in the regular season for whatever reason. That's going to be a risk. Hopefully not. Hopefully he can play, 75 plus. Um, but hey, there ain't nothing like guaranteed money. But at the end of the day, Isaiah Hartenstein got 20 or 22. So for Mitch to get 20 or 22, he's definitely going to have to be as impactful as he was, but stay healthy. And I think the rest will take care of itself. Um, Look, there's no doubt they're being extra cautious as well. It might not be anything to really even worry about. They might just be keeping Mitch out till he, can shake off that ankle injury right now that he's dealing with, or the soreness. I know they had a very hard preseason and a very hard training camp as well. But my biggest thing moving forward is what are we going to see with these guys' health in relation to practice? Like the trade off apparently is going to be that Mike Brown is going to train practice every other day, right? So we might be playing an 11-man rotation, but Mike Brown is going to practice every other day, right? He's not going to miss practice. Whereas Thibodeau let these guys have some rest and gave these guys some days off. Mike Brown's not going to be doing that, which I'm good with because it's championship aspirations and we need to be best prepared for the playoffs. And how do you be best prepared? You need to practice, right? End of game scenarios, practice, offensive sets, guys needing to know their role. We heard Karl Anthony Towns talk about that he doesn't quite know his role offensively yet. And I'm okay with that because it's so early in the season. But I think we saw a lot from Cat that we've seen before and we're going to see a lot more of. Fourth quarter, down the stretch, get on that block. Get on that block and dominate. Or pick and roll with Brunson, two-man game. It can be unguardable, right? But if Deuce McBride is out there splashing these threes, that's going to allow those guys more space to operate. The biggest thing that I think we're going to see this season, guys, is Josh Hart not playing with these starters in these lineups too much as the biggest thing from Thibodeau. And it's going to allow these guys more space, right? You can't give Brunson and Cat space if Deuce McBride is out there like this. Deuce only needs a second, and he's got that three ball popping right there and a good screen set from Ariel. And that's the difference. Last season, Hart's man, his defender would kind of cheat, would cheat off of that, man. But if we're putting up 43s per game, we're going to be letting it fly. So that these defenders aren't going to be sagging off, right? We're going to be hitting threes this season, especially with Landry out there. Shout out to Landry Shamet, hit a couple of threes, 2 of 3. Deuce McBride had that 3. Poppin'. Buzzer Beater says 15 milli for Mitch makes sense. Yeah. And I think some people even want to, see what happens in season and run it past the season, to talk to Mitch about a contract, But if you can get him to sign earlier, I think for a good number, I think it makes sense for both sides. We'll see how it plays out. He looked great in preseason, I think before he went down. Paula says he won't be getting that bag if he doesn't play. I do think the price will come down. And like I said, I know a lot of people are mentioning some other big men that got paid handsomely, but you can also look at the Isaiah Hartenstein thing. Isaiah was more durable, went to a championship contender. He got about 20, 22. Um, Not to say Mitch can't earn that, but there's only one way I can see Mitch getting paid 20 plus, and that's if he can play, most games and not miss much time. Because even the most, savvy GMs or presidents, they're going to be hesitant, paying that kind of money in this tough restrictions. El Tango 45 salute says our core is solid as long as our new players progress accordingly. We should be fine. 100%. I saw a vet team out there today that was comfortable in game one as they possibly can be, and they're only going to get more comfortable. A couple of young guys sprinkled in with Kolek, Hakpority. We looked okay, man. Shout out to Diawara as well. I think he'll get chances. McCullough will get chances this season. Dardier and Tosan, Josh Hart. I mean, we're crazy deep, guys. We're mob deep. We had 5 wings that could have played that didn't play tonight. Hart, McCullough, Dardier, Diawara, Tosan. That's 5 wings that did not play tonight. Man, we've never been in that position before, as far as I can remember. Johnny Chiba says Deuce has that clutch clutch player of the game. You said it, Johnny, man. He was clutch in big moments where we needed that bucket. As I just said to EJ as well, I felt like Deuce is stepping up as a leader as well, right? I think Deuce could be a leader kind of guy, a part of the leadership group of players with OG and Macau, right? Because don't forget, Deuce has been through a couple of playoff battles now. I think 3. The first one was where we lost to Miami, and where he was still finding his feet. It was his first playoff run, and he got some minutes in that Miami series, and he just wasn't ready. Turned it over a couple of times. Then the following year, we made that run. We beat Philadelphia in the first round last season before last, and then we went down to Indiana. Last season was his 3rd rodeo, and we went to the Eastern Conference Final. So Deuce is a seasoned vet right now, and I think we're going to see the best of him. Don't forget, he's looking for that bag as well. He's playing hungry. Is Deuce McBride. Can't wait to see what he does this season. Buzzabita says, can the Knicks give Mitch a health incentive? Yeah, absolutely they can. Great point. I think the Pelicans did something, similar with Zion, fam. I did think they put some heavy incentives in his contract. And I think that's smart. Look, on that note, good to see Lonzo Ball out there as well. Lonzo Ball, he knows better than anyone, man. Take that bag. If there's a decent bag out there, take it, because you just never know, fam. Dennis Schroeder still, moving around the league like a journeyman. I think he was offered once 72 or 60 something with the Dallas Mavericks and didn't take it. Nerlens Noel obviously missed out on that bag as well. We'll see. Johnny Chiba says Deuce has improved every year. He outgrew the G League and forged his way onto the roster. Yeah, that's one of our best development stories, to be honest. I really hope that we were going to develop more guys like KP, Frank, Kevin Knox, so many guys, Jaron Grant. The list goes on, man. But Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, definitely one of our best development stories, fam, out of the draft. Now, this year we've invested heavily in some development guys, and we've got plenty of guys to develop and pour some time into, fam. Especially, You got guys like Tyler Kolek right here, laying the dime for OG Demon Obi, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll get ready to wrap this thing up, man. Had a great show tonight. Enjoyed the energy and the good vibes. Chopping up the Knicks' big win, 119-111 against the Eastern Conference rivals, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Good to see Kolek got an opportunity. Huck Porty stepped up as a starter as well. Brunson and Cat have a lot more improvement, I think. But they, came big in the fourth quarter. But OG Anunoby and Deuce McBride and Mikal Bridges were outstanding once again. And the 2 game balls go to those legends. Sal P says Deuce was a quarterback. He's tough. Yeah. He's from great stock. Deuce McBride. Great family. Sports family as well. OG Anunoby had a lot of criticism about missing time. Last season that changed. This season that could be put to bed completely. And shout out to Casey Smith, the new health science, the trainer with the team. And let's see if they can help Mitch out staying healthy. But I'm not really worried about Mitch per se, because I do think it's more about Mike Brown's system. Hard practice. It was a grueling training camp. And I think Mitch is probably just, he's probably tired and sore from that. Maybe picked up that ankle during, practice and preseason. But I'm happy for Huck Porty, getting those opportunities, right? I think minutes were down tonight. We've got a day's rest. We can do some training and practice tomorrow. And Friday night, we get after it. We get after it on Friday night against Boston. Can we go 2-0 against 2 of our biggest opponents? And then we have the Miami Heat. But 43s went up tonight. Was good. 22 assists. And I like the 8 steals. OG Anunoby wants to be Defensive Player of the Year this year. That's one of his goals. And he definitely was a huge standout tonight with 3 steals and a block. Right. 4 stocks for OG Anunoby. So that's the way you want to get it done, ladies and gentlemen. Keep the streets buzzing, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everyone. Big up.